Okay, since we are beginning a new series of explanations, let's take refuge together, the Tibetan way. Those who know the prayer, you can chant together with me, and the others can just meditate on the deepest motivation that brings us together here. And we will need to close the window when the sound is there. So now. Pedan sawe lama rinpoche, dage che wa beden den shola, kaden champa gona je sunte, ko sunte gena dron sando sa, sangha chedan sange janamla. Chanchom Padon Dane Kap Sunji, Dagin Jen Sunji Basanamji, Drola Benji Sangye Drombai Joy, Sangye Chandan Sangye Janamla, Chanchom Padon Dane Kap Sunji, Dagin Jen Sunji Basanamji, Drola Benjia Sangye Jombai Joy, Sangye Chedan Sangye Janamla, Chanjom Badon Dane Kyam Sunji, Dagin Jin Sunji Besanamji, Drola Benjia Sangye Jombai Joy. Sem chen tam chen de wan dan de wen jun dan dem ban jun jing. Dun nine jin jun dan ja wan jun jing. Dun nine men ben de wan dam ban dam min ja wan jun jing. Nirin jan dan min dan ja wen tan non chen bo lan en ban jun jing. Sem chen dam chen de wan dan de wen jun dan dem ban jun jing. Dun nine jin jun dan ja wan jun jing. Dun nine men bun de wan dam ban dam min ja wan jun jing. Nirin chan dam ni dan ja wen tan non chen bo la nem ban jun jing. Sem chen dam chen de wan dan de wen jun dan dem ban jun jing. Dun nine jin jun dan ja wan jun jing. Dun nine men bun de wan dam ban dam min ja wan jun jing. Nirin chan dam ni dan ja wen tan non chen bo la nem ban jun jing. Very welcome everybody to this new series of teachings, of Zoom teachings. We are here, 10 people in the room, so actually small group listening. And you are many out there in the world, so I want to say thank you to the translators who make themselves available. And to start with, I would like to give you an idea of the purpose of these teachings now. Usually, middle of August, this is our biggest course, and last year, for example, we were something like 250 people here together practicing for 8 days and receiving the instructions on the Moonbeams of Mahamudra. And this is a transmission which I plan to give over 7 years. Now it will be 1 year added, because we use this year now to catch up, so to speak. I give a lot of summaries of what we already did, to give the English-speaking audience especially a possibility to join us. The teachings were always given in German, English and French. The complete audios exist. And this time, because of the coronavirus and the impossibility to meet in big groups for such a long period, then already in spring, in early spring, I prepared 11 videos for you on the Moonbeams of Mahamudra. These videos, you were informed about them, and they were actually supposed to make up the study material for this retreat now. And they're available to you. So some of you, I know, you make this into a retreat now. You say, okay, I'm spending my usual time with the Mahamudra teachings and the moonbeams, and for example, you might have taken the last days already to listen and watch these Mahamudra videos, these 11 ones, and then you will be very well prepared for what I will teach now. Now, in case you didn't do that, then you can use the mornings. You can use the mornings to see the other videos. That would be excellent. Or you see that later, in case you are, for example, having to work half day and then you can only be free now for these teachings, then you can actually listen to these other 11 videos at your own pace. They are available on our Ekayana library, media library, anytime, whenever you want. Now, for those who have actually benefited of watching those videos already, then you will have seen that they cover the whole ground of how to meditate in the usual or common approach. The approach which is common to all Buddhist schools of practice. And now, with the teaching today, I'm starting part 2 of the book on the moonbeams. And this is where we are introduced to how one meditates in the Mahamudra tradition. And Dakpotashi Namgyal insists that someone starting the practice in the Mahamudra tradition should be very familiar with how to do the practice commonly in all traditions. So that is the basis. If you realize now when I say this that you don't know what I'm talking about, then you need to listen and watch the other videos and really study basic meditation. Because now we will catch up with the teachings that were given in further years of our transmission in the 3rd and 4th year. And we will enter, properly speaking, the approach of Mahamudra. So this is now the 12th video, and it's our first Zoom, because the other teachings I did not give via Zoom. They were prepared quietly in the background while everybody was getting very frenetic about this corona virus and so on. Then we were here together with Arjan and others. We were preparing those videos, and he took time to work on them. We are in this big book, Moonbeams of Mahamudra. Yeah, in this book, we are starting on page 113 now. It will not be of so much help while I talk, because I'm continuing to give summaries, all the detailed explanations you find in the audios of the courses that we have already shared. So here, in this part 2, where Dakpotashi Namgyal explains the way to cultivate the uncommon practice of Mahamudra, then first, of course, he needs to explain the meanings of the word Mahamudra. Usually we translate it as the great seal. Seal like a stamp, a seal of authenticity. Something which is true, which is authentic. Because the term mudra actually means seal or mark or a sign. It also means imprint, a trait and characteristic. Seal, mark, sign, imprint, trait, characteristic. We know the word mudra from the mudras of the body, but actually that was not the most important Sanskrit meaning of the term. Actually, for example, if I make this mudra to you, I make this mudra, then you will understand I want to give something to you. So the hands express a symbolic meaning. It's not just cupped hands stretched out. The meaning is, please take. So you would be, this is the real meaning of mudra, which means something which has a hidden meaning, something which is symbolic of a deeper meaning. And here it refers to the true nature of phenomena, of all our experiences. So it refers to, here as Dr. Tashinamga says, it refers to the fact that our experiences, as we look into them, into what I see now, what I hear now, when I feel into the nature of those experiences, they are ungraspable. They are empty of substance. And this is what the mudra points to and what is common to all experiences, to all phenomena, that they are ungraspable. They're so much so ungraspable that you can call them unborn or non-arising. Sometimes we simply call them suchness or thusness. Just so. Sometimes they are called perfection of wisdom. And actually, their true nature is when I hear a sound and I try to catch the true nature of the sound as such defies definitions. One cannot really define it because one cannot hold it for a moment. One has to repeat it, and it's always a little different sound. And the same with the seeing experience, the feeling experience, the thinking experience. All these experiences, they are undefinable as to lasting characteristics because they can't even be caught still for one moment. They are always process. So it's one of the characteristics of phenomena to be always dynamic, always process. And Dr. Tashin Namgyal adds that whatever we experience, it is complete as such. It is free of all expectations. So this is a strange term when you read that. Free of all expectations means hearing a sound is free of any impulse that there must be another sound. Feeling something is free of the expectation for something more, something else. In itself, every experience is, as such, free of hope, free of expectations. Something very important on the path of liberation, because usually we are always hankering, wishing for more. We are getting into a mechanism of thinking one thing, thinking the next thing, or like one thing always leading to the next. Seeing creates an addiction to seeing more, hearing an addiction to hearing more, thinking an addiction to thinking more. Emotions, the more we have, the more we seem that it's necessary to have. And as we turn our awareness into the very nature of experience, we see, wow, spacious, ungraspable, no substance, no hope, no fear, just so. And this is this discovery of suchness, just so. And actually, every time we do that, we go from the conditioned experience. For example, if I hold up my shimarong, then I am producing a conditioned experience now because of holding up, of having an object, and then this is being filmed and you see it on your screens and you see the object. This is relatively seeing an object, and it's a conditioned experience because of causes and conditions. As one enters the very experience of seeing the shimarong, then the seeing itself is ungraspable. Happening, yes, but cannot be caught, cannot be stopped, cannot be defined for even one moment. As you see, I've put it down, it's already gone. So this is what we say, we are going from the relatively conditioned into realizing that in every conditioned experience, that is the unconditioned nature. So the words I'm talking are conditioned by my tongue, by my understanding, by your understanding, by our ears, by so many factors. They condition the experience of hearing. But as such, the nature of the experience of hearing, even if I continue talking, experience of hearing has this always same unconditioned, spacious quality, ungraspable quality. That's the unconditioned within the conditioned, the ultimate within the relative. So mudra points to all that. When we talk about Mahamudra, we talk about the great understanding, the mudra pointing towards the understanding of just how all phenomena are. Maha means great or supreme, and signifies that there is nothing higher, nothing more supreme than this Dharma, than this understanding. So this is quite an entry into our little teaching here. It starts from a definition, but the definition includes already all the understanding of what Mahamudra is about. The path of practice will lead us into this understanding. So practicing Mahamudra actually will lead us into the understanding that all phenomena, without exception, have that nature that was just described. And there are many synonyms for the terms Mahamudra. Suchness, unsurpassable wisdom, universal excellence, Dharmakaya, the body or the dimension of truth, and also the equality of all phenomena, the one equal character quality of all phenomena. Okay, that much for the definition of the word Mahamudra. Now, if we put it more practical, this was now for you probably a little bit, it sounds theoretical. But actually, when a friend asks you and you say, I practice in the Mahamudra tradition, then your friends wants to know, what? What are you practicing? And at least you should be able to explain what Mahamudra means. So actually, I'm practicing in the understanding that what seems to be all the relative appearances, all experiences of the six senses, they point to a deeper reality, which is the same for all phenomena. So I'm practicing an understanding of the ungraspable nature of what seems to be so real. And this I practice with everything, Maha, with all phenomena, without exception. And it's the deepest understanding there is, not being fooled by appearances, but always knowing their true nature. That means, actually, very simple wisdom, whatever arises, passes. In the arising, it already changes. And if I practice this with my emotions, with my thinking processes, if I know my thinking to be insubstantial, then I'm free to follow it or not to follow it. If I know an emotion which arises to be simply arising, no need to solidify, then I'm free to not solidify, to let it pass. And it will pass just as quick as anything else, as any sound impression, for example. So this is you can say, when Tibetan teachers are asked quick definition of Mahamudra, they will say, the great seal of the emptiness of all phenomena, the empty nature of all phenomena. That's what they will say. That the ungraspable empty nature is true for every experience. And to come to that understanding is the whole purpose of Mahamudra. Now actually, in order to make that more clear, we have some more explanations about Mahamudra from a completely different point of view. Now, for so far as I have been explaining, it sounds like a big thing to realize. In order to make it clear that we are not talking about something big and big effort and so on, then the teaching about ground, path and fruition Mahamudra was given. Ground Mahamudra means that what we wish to realize is already our starting point, is our ground. It's the basic ground of our being, the basic nature, the basic Buddha nature. It's the very nature of all phenomena. We don't have to create Mahamudra, it's already there. Path Mahamudra is to unveil, to uncover, to discover that which is already there, to become clear about what is there. And when it is completely realized, actualized, then is fresh Mahamudra. Then the Buddha nature has been made evident, has been actualized, and we are Buddhas. So we are not going to a different place. It's simply realizing what is already there. Since this is a summary of Dakpo Tashi Namgya's teaching, I will bother you a little bit with his terms. In the teachings, when we did this elaborately, I was going through every sentence of the book and explaining it. But at least I have to give you some terms. I will have to give you the basic terms of understanding the technical language of Mahamudra. This ground Mahamudra that we are talking about, the so-called Buddha nature, is not something we can grasp. We cannot find it as a thing, as an object. That's why we say it is free from characteristics. Because we cannot find characteristics of that, what we call the open dimension, the luminous, the inner clarity, which has no center. We cannot pinpoint it. It does not have a place where it stays. It does not abide somewhere. And yet, it pervades everything, every experience. So this Mahamudra that we practice is actually all the time here. Strangely enough, that realization is all the time here. That dimension of what we call Buddha nature. It's comparable to space. Like, although we are not aware of space because we always look at objects, but space is all the time here, inside and outside. Movement is only possible due to space. Breathing is only possible due to space. Heartbeat is only possible due to space. And this symbol of space is taken for the mind. There is all the space to have new experiences, all the time. And usually we are always preoccupied with what happens, and we are not aware of the spacious nature of experiencing life. So, this is why it is sometimes, if I remember Genro Rinpoche, he would say, well, it's like really having a different look at our life. It's like when you look into the room now, your room where you are sitting, you can also look on the camera, but like take the whole room. And usually you see lots of things and people. But how about becoming aware of space in that same room? It's a different way of being, right? Photographers are using this. They are not photographing, they're not taking photos of objects so much, but always objects in space. And some photographers have even specialized on capturing space, and the objects simply help to underline the experience of spaciousness. So that gives you a little idea of what we are doing in Mahamudra practice. We're adding another dimension to our way of perceiving life. Right now, for example, I see that you are just trying to hear the sounds of the teaching in a spacious state of your mind. And that's the way to do. So if you got caught up now with all the technical terms, then please just relax now. Feel the spaciousness from which these terms are coming, or about which these terms are are actually pointing to. And this is how one can understand Mahamudra teachings best. It's by tuning into the mind of the teacher. Here we all tune into the mind of Dakbuddha Shinamgyal and all the other masters. And then things become easy. Somehow, very, very easy. The words flow through, they're being heard, they're understood, but the intellect does not grasp at them as, I have to understand, oh my God, this is too difficult. Can't he stop giving more and more words? I mean, I wish he would be quiet. All this, these complicating thoughts inside that make it impossible to actually capture, to get the feeling of what is being talked about. So this is what we will do with all phenomena. Like when you listen to a person and you listen to what is behind the words. In this way, we kind of listen to the universe, we see the universe, we hear the universe, feeling into what is not in the expression, but what makes the expression possible, from where the expression comes, how the experience arises. And like this, right now, we can be completely in touch with that incredible potential, that dynamic potential of awareness to produce anything, to be aware of anything. Now, and another now, and another now. It's incredible, this incredible possibility, this incredible freedom which is due to the fact that nothing stays. Nothing has substance. It's the good old truth of impermanence. From beginning to end, we are never talking about anything else but the fact of change. Change means that what changes is not static. It is process. And if the process is not fueled by energy, if the process is not fueled into one direction, like for example an emotion of anger is fueled by our clinging to our self-importance and the feeling that we are right and so on, then the anger can grow. If it's in this process, if no one identifies, the anger is gone the very moment. So we begin to understand that this dynamic world always depends on which forces are active to produce the next experience of now. And that's our freedom. If we can relax the forces that create suffering, suffering is finished. If we increase the forces that create tension and suffering, then tension will be there. That's very easy. Okay, this was all about our possibility to actually enter the ground Mahamudra, our basic state. Now, we heard about this, it makes sense. I remember when I heard first about this, was in my early student years, I was amazed. I was really amazed. It was Tengar Rinpoche, the first one who talked about it. And the first one giving the explanations of Mahamudra. And I was thinking how to get there. How is it possible? How is it possible to enter that? And that's the teaching about path Mahamudra. The path is gradually reducing the energy put into creating all the same patterns of functioning as before. The veils, the so-called veils. So reducing the energy one puts into one's emotional veils, that means not putting more fuel into anger, hatred, into desire, into jealousy, into pride and fear and so on. How to do that? How to not put more oil on the fire? This is one part of the path. And the other part is to relax and become aware of just how all that works. This is insight practice. The insight into the self-liberating quality of all phenomena, of all experiences. This is called purifying the veils. And this is leading to a growing realization of just how it is to be, of life. There are three practices. Those who know the Buddhist teaching, they are familiar with these three practices. Listening, reflecting, contemplating, meditating. Listening includes study. So this is what we do now. We share study, a moment of study. Most of you, as you listen, already you contemplate. But if you do it afterwards, for example, you take this video, then you could always, and this is the wonderful thing with videos and audios, you can push the button and stop, pause. And then you reflect deeply about what it means for you. And when, for example, you have a feeling of just how easy it is, then you start meditating. Meditating means the understanding produced by study and contemplation produces such an openness that you enter a non-conceptual state of mind based on insight. That's called meditation. These three practices are path Mahamudra. In as much as the understanding generated by study, contemplation and meditation is connected to understanding the nature of phenomena, this empty, ungraspable, dynamic nature of all experiences. That's path Mahamudra. Basically practice with calm abiding, shamatha, and insight meditation, vipassana. These are the major tools. Now, since Mahamudra originated in India between the 2nd century after Christ to the 8th century, and that time was the time of Mahamudra becoming very well known, and then it was established and came to Tibet later on in the 11th, 12th century. Then, since it was in India, the Mahamudra practice in those times was also connected to other practices of the Buddhist yogis, the tantric practices. Mahamudra and Buddhist Tantra were intimately connected. And the term Mahamudra, when Dakbuddha Shinamgal explains it, then includes the other practices which were practiced in those times. And I'm sorry, I have to bother you with more technical terms. So, Mahamudra was seen as the pinnacle, the summit of practices called Kama Mudra, Samaya Mudra, Dharma Mudra, and Jnana Mudra. And I will, there's so many definitions of these terms, but I will try to talk in practical terms. You can say that all these mudras, including Mahamudra, their aim as a practice is to lead to a unification, a yoga. Yoga means bringing two together. It's to unite, a unification. A unified mind of a completely free being. Now, there can be a progression. Karma mudra, for example, is to karma means activity. Karma mudra is activity mudra, action mudra. Now, you still hear this term when you travel to India. Karma mudra in the ashram means cleaning, washing up, and so on. You do your karma mudra. Yeah? You do your activity, and you don't stop meditating, you don't stop being aware while you're active. So, to unify my meditative awareness with action would be called karma mudra. Now, the most intense karma mudra would be to unite with a consort, with your partner, male or female partner. It's the most intense form of activity because it stimulates emotions very strongly. So, karma mudra also became used as a term for uniting with a partner and practicing at the same time. To the practice of non-clinging, of non-attachment, of openness, of that ungraspable nature of our phenomena. So that would be one form of practices which were practiced all over northern India at the time and probably many other parts, including what nowadays we call Kashmir, especially where the yogis were very active, spreading to China and so on, many, many places. Now, some found out that actually you can do that practice also in a more interior form. You can practice jnana mudra, you receive a wisdom mudra. Jnana means wisdom or timeless awareness. You can actually visualize all these processes of activity and also of uniting, and you can have this, if the intensity is great enough, you can have all the experiences by inner experience of visualizing. So this includes all the visualization practices of the Tantra. Then you can also practice it as samaya mudra, which means you are on the outer level. It means that you keep your vows, your promises, your commitments, your pure view, and so on. On the inner level, it can be the practice of the inner bodhicitta, the wisdom fire of bodhicitta, of compassion and wisdom burning for all sentient beings. And you can actually join this to practices called Chandali or Tumo, where that's the samaya mudra of developing blissful feelings in the body, joyful feelings, feelings of extreme well-being, and opening into them, relaxing into them without clinging. It's a further enhancement of the practices that we have talked about so far. And then there was another term called Dharma Mudra, which basically means after you have gone through all of these other mudras, or directly, you practice with all dharmas, with all phenomena. Whatever arises, that's your dharma, that's your practice. Whatever you see, whatever you hear, what you feel, what you think, all of that, that what arises, the very nature of those dharmas, which is dharmata, the suchness, the nature of phenomena, that's your mudra, that's your practice. Until you reach the understanding of the one taste of all phenomena, which is Mahamudra. Yeah, the one ungraspable taste of all phenomena. So forget the Sanskrit terms, but keep the explanation about how to join practice with action, couple relationships, visualization practices, pranayama practices with prana, which means like inner heat and so on, kundalini practices and so on. All of this is the chandali practice, the tumo, the kind of the fire of bodhicitta, which burns for the benefit of all beings. How to really make that the essence of your practice. Then seeing the bodhicitta quality in all phenomena, the very nature of all phenomena, until you lose all hesitation to engage in the world because you understand the inseparability, you can say the one taste of samsara and nirvana. That would be fruition Mahamudra. The fruit is that all experiences in life have become practice. So that's a complete description of the path, and that's the good thing about that. Fruition Mahamudra means that all hesitations, fears, hopes, expectations are purified. They have all dissolved, and one knows the nature of phenomena spontaneously without even the most subtle clinging. At that time we talk about the manifestation of the fivefold timeless awareness, the timeless awareness of a Buddha, with all the various aspects of enlightened awareness. Spacious, unhindered, ungraspable, empty, very vivid and lucid, and dynamic and active. All these qualities are there. Okay, so to practice these, then Dakputashinamga says, has a lot of benefits. He says the best benefit of all, the supreme result, is that we reach Buddhahood. And that we know the equal nature of all phenomena. And that we are not afraid of samsara anymore, because we know how to make that what for other people is samsara, the world of conditioned arising, actually as the experience of nirvana. And that's what the bodhisattvas and Buddhas need in order to manifest in the world. Not to become caught, not to become confused by the appearances, but actually seeing through into their very nature. So that would be the first teaching, the first part of my Zoom teachings. It's very demanding, yes, indeed. But this is just the opening chapter. The rest is getting a little bit more easy, I think. Because it's this chapter where we were on the pages 113 to 119 in chapter 5 of the book. So in part 2, this is the first chapter, but in the book it is the 5th chapter. And this was, the idea of Dakputashinamga was, with all these explanations, to generate confidence, to generate an inspiration. That actually I got the feeling that by giving these explanations, then the Mahamudra teachers, they want to touch the heart of the student, where we all have something like an indescribable confidence. Somehow behind these strange terms and so on, there's a deep truth. And we feel like, if we trust, yes, such words, they come from a deep understanding, and it's authentic, and it's not made up. It's like, wow, yeah, I want to go there. Actually, this is what has happened to me. Also, in the beginning, I understood nothing, but my heart understood everything. So the mind, the intellect, was not able to repeat the words, yes, but the heart felt, yeah, that's what I want to practice. That's how it is. Very obvious. And the so-called heart, which is the intuitive understanding, does not depend so much on the intellectual understanding. Actually, 1/10 of the words, or even less, is sufficient to make the bridge. There are only so many words because there are so many people. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about the words. Study the teaching. This was just an opener, and we will make a break now. We will make a little break. And okay, yes, if you wish, you can write some questions into the chat. Okay? Some questions about the teaching, something which you want to have explained more.
To everyone. Not privately, to everyone. So
To everyone, yes.